The morning sunlight filtered gently through the curtains as Noah slowly opened his eyes, feeling the warmth of his home for the first time in weeks. The familiar scent of his house, aged wood, books, and the faint aroma of breakfast was comforting, yet strange, after the harsh wilderness of the Amazon. His body ached in places he had almost forgotten existed, his arms were bruised, legs stiff, and his chest still carried faint burns from his crash. Every wound and scar told a story, every ache reminded him of the fight for survival. Noah's family had been anxiously waiting. His children, now wide-eyed with curiosity and worry, hovered near his bed, whispering questions he could barely answer. Each small movement he made drew concerned expressions from them. His spouse tended to his injuries meticulously, cleaning the deep scratches with tender care and applying ointments that soothed the stinging pain. Noah felt a mixture of relief and guilt, relief that he had survived, guilt for the worry he had caused them. Yet, he smiled, trying to reassure them, even if his voice was hoarse and fragile. As the hours passed, Noah reflected on the impossible journey he had endured. The images of the jungle flashed in his mind, the towering trees, strange glowing creatures, hidden rivers, and the dangerous animals he had narrowly escaped. Each memory was vivid, like a film replaying in his mind. The fear, the exhaustion, the moments of despair, and the tiny flashes of hope all collided in his thoughts. Though physically safe, he realized that the jungle's wild imprint would never truly leave him. With assistance, Noah attempted to move around his home. The floor felt strange beneath his feet, stable, soft, and predictable, unlike the uneven ground, sharp rocks, and mud of the Amazon. He was grateful for the comfort of his bed, the warmth of blankets, and the soft cushions that cradled his aching body. Yet, he could feel the strength that once carried him through the forest slowly returning with each step, a reminder of the resilience he had developed in the face of extreme adversity. Noah's family encouraged him to rest, but he couldn't stop thinking. His mind wandered to the survival techniques he had perfected, the lessons he had learned, and the unspoken bond he had formed with the creatures he had encountered. Every moment in the jungle had been a lesson, not just about survival, but about trust, courage, and the limits of human endurance. He knew that while he was home, the story wasn't truly over. He needed to preserve what he had experienced, both for himself and for others who might one day learn from his journey. As evening fell, the house grew quiet. Noah's children finally dozed off, exhausted from the emotional day, and his spouse prepared a simple meal. Noah sat by the window, looking at the horizon. The sky's hues reminded him of the canopy he had once crawled beneath, the rivers he had crossed, and the hidden paths he had navigated. Though he was home, the memories of the Amazon loomed large, every scar, every sound, every face of a strange animal, and the faint whisper of the jungle wind in his ears. He realized that this was a moment of pause, a fragile recovery. His body was healing, yes, but his mind needed time to process everything he had endured. There was gratitude for life, for family, for safety. And yet, deep inside, a part of him longed for the wilderness, the challenge, the adventure, the raw connection with nature. He understood that this longing would stay with him, perhaps forever, as the Amazon had changed him in ways that no home could undo. Noah closed his eyes, letting the warmth of his home surround him. He felt his heart beat slow, the tension in his muscles ease, and a faint sense of peace settle over him. But the fire within, the drive to explore, to survive, to discover, was not gone. It was quiet, simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the moment it would ignite again. For now, he was home. Safe, healing, and surrounded by those who loved him. Yet even in the comfort of familiar walls, he knew that life's next adventure was only a step away. This was Noah's first day back, a day of rest, recovery, and reflection. A day to heal, to be human again, and to prepare for what lay ahead. And though the jungle was behind him, its lessons, scars, and spirit were etched permanently in his soul. The morning sun gently filtered through the curtains once again, painting golden streaks across the wooden floor as Noah sat at his small study desk, the bandages on his arms now carefully wrapped and his body slightly more recovered than the day before. His home was quiet, save for the occasional chirp of birds outside, a stark contrast to the constant cacophony of the jungle he had endured. Today, Noah decided to open the journal he had kept during his harrowing Amazon experience, a book filled with detailed sketches, notes, and observations of every creature, every plant, every river and cliff he had encountered. He flipped through the pages slowly, tracing the lines of his own handwriting, the memories of each day flooding back vividly. There were sketches of the glowing insects that lit up the forest at night, meticulously detailed renderings of the giant reptiles and unknown creatures that had crossed his path, and diagrams of traps he had built to catch small animals for survival. Every page told a story of fear, endurance, and adaptation. He ran his fingers over the sketches, remembering the cold nights when he had shivered under makeshift shelters, the days he had crawled through mud and water, the moments he had narrowly avoided a predator, and the overwhelming sense of isolation that had accompanied him. The journal was not just a collection of notes, it was a lifeline, a detailed map of every lesson he had learned from the jungle. He paused at a page depicting the river he had stumbled upon after days of searching for water, recalling the relief of finally washing the grime and blood from his wounds, feeling the cool, clear water rush over the cuts, and the strange comfort of knowing that even in the wild, small victories were possible. Next to the journal lay his tablet, where he had uploaded the videos he had captured using a small camera he had carried throughout his journey. Noah began watching the footage, the moving images of the jungle creating an almost surreal blend of memory and reality. He saw himself climbing over fallen trees, cautiously approaching unknown creatures, and cautiously navigating treacherous terrain. The colors of the forest on the screen were vivid and intense, the greens deep and lush, the sunlight breaking through the canopy in scattered rays that created a magical interplay of shadows and light. He watched himself struggling to start small fires, the sparks dancing in the dim light as he tried to cook the meager food he had managed to trap or gather. Every movement on the screen was a reminder of the delicate balance between life and death he had experienced, and every sound, the rushing rivers, the screeches of birds, the rustle of leaves, transported him back to that wild, untamed world. Watching the footage, he felt a mixture of pride, relief, and lingering anxiety. Pride for having survived, relief that he was now safe, and anxiety at the thought of revisiting those memories even in the comfort of his home. The jungle had left an indelible mark on his soul, and he understood that the lessons he had learned there were far more profound than simple survival. They were about resilience, observation, patience, and the deep, unspoken communication between a human and nature. As Noah continued to study his notes and videos, he began documenting more insights, writing in the margins of his journal with renewed purpose. He annotated which techniques had worked best for catching small animals, how he had fashioned tools from sticks, vines, and rocks, and the precise patterns of dangerous creatures to avoid. He also wrote about the moments of wonder, the iridescent insects, the hidden waterfalls, the way sunlight would flicker through the canopy at dawn, and the unusual, almost mystical creatures he had seen gliding in the distance. He made careful notes on his emotional state during each event, recognizing how fear, hope, and determination had guided his choices. The process of reviewing and recording was therapeutic, helping him process the trauma of the jungle while also solidifying the knowledge he had gained. It felt as though the jungle was still alive within these pages, waiting for him to honor it by preserving its secrets and lessons. Throughout the day, Noah's family checked on him regularly, bringing him meals, helping him adjust bandages, and offering comfort. Yet, he found himself increasingly absorbed in his work, the pages of the journal and the videos on the tablet forming a bridge between his past and present. He realized that this reflection was essential, not just for his recovery, but for the potential of sharing these experiences with others. There was knowledge here that could educate, inspire, and perhaps even prepare someone for the challenges of the wild. He imagined future expeditions, careful preparation, and a deeper understanding of how to move safely and respectfully within untamed environments. By late afternoon, the house was bathed in warm golden light. Noah leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes for a moment and feeling the tension in his muscles ease slightly. He thought about the journey ahead, not just the physical adventures, but the mental and emotional preparation he would need to undertake for whatever lay next. There was a spark of determination in him, a quiet resolve that, though he had survived the jungle, he was not done learning, not done exploring, and certainly not done respecting the power of the natural world. The day ended with Noah carefully setting aside his journal, ensuring that every page was safe, every sketch intact, and every video properly stored. He understood that these records were more than just memories, they were tools for wisdom, survival, and storytelling. As night fell, Noah prepared for rest, knowing that the reflection of this day had not only healed his mind and body but had also laid the foundation for his next adventure, wherever it might lead him. Noah sat in his quiet study, surrounded by the soft glow of the evening light filtering through the curtains, his body still tender from the wounds he had endured during his last jungle ordeal. Yet, despite the pain, there was a fire in his eyes, a determination that had grown stronger after every challenge he had faced. He carefully laid out all of his notes and sketches from the journal he had been diligently keeping since returning home. Each page was a vivid memory of survival, filled with sketches of strange creatures he had encountered, maps of the terrain he had traversed, and detailed annotations about the behavior and habitats of these mysterious animals. As he reviewed the pages, he could almost feel the humid air of the Amazon jungle, the rustling leaves above him, and the distant calls of creatures that no human had ever seen before. Noah paused, thinking deeply about how much he had learned in those weeks of struggle and solitude, realizing that his experience was far more than mere survival, it was a window into a world untouched by humans. He remembered the way the river had rushed over the rocks, how he had managed to purify water with the simple tools at his disposal, and the exact moment when an injured flying creature had helped him, trusting him enough to allow him to assist in healing its broken wing. The memory of that moment filled him with both wonder and responsibility, and he felt an urge to share these incredible experiences in a structured way so that he could not only preserve them for himself but also prepare for any future journey. Noah then began planning meticulously, outlining the steps he would take if he ever returned to the dense jungle, what tools he would carry, how he would signal for help, and the strategies he would employ to locate water and food. He imagined constructing clever shelters, using natural resources to his advantage, and even creating small signal devices that could catch the attention of passing aircraft, envisioning how every detail could mean the difference between life and death. As he wrote, he felt the adrenaline and awareness of his past experiences rise within him, the same caution and precision that had kept him alive now translated into careful planning on paper. He even went so far as to simulate scenarios in his mind, being cornered by unknown predators, navigating through unfamiliar terrain, and treating wounds with limited supplies, all while making careful notes of how he would adapt. Between these strategic plans, Noah took moments to reflect on the emotional weight of his past ordeal, the isolation, the uncertainty, and the friendships that had been forged in extreme circumstances, even if only with creatures of the jungle who had helped him when no human could. He felt a deep sense of gratitude, realizing that survival was not only about skill but also about trust and the unspoken bonds formed in moments of crisis. The air in the room seemed charged with the energy of his imagination as he sketched new ideas for tools, improvised weapons, and signaling methods that could be used for navigation and rescue. He carefully colored each sketch with attention to detail, making notes on the textures, materials, and practicality of each tool, ensuring that they could be recreated in real life. As the evening stretched into night, he paused to watch the shadows flicker across the walls, imagining the dense canopy of the jungle, the way the moonlight would filter through massive leaves, and the hidden dangers that lay just beyond his sight. His journal had become more than a collection of notes, it was now a blueprint for survival, a testament to his ingenuity and resilience. With a deep breath, Noah closed the journal for a moment, letting the weight of his reflections settle in his mind, feeling both the burden and the inspiration of his past experiences. He knew that he had not only survived but had grown wiser, more aware of the delicate balance between life and danger, and more capable of facing whatever challenges lay ahead. Planning his next steps, he began considering how he would gather resources, secure food, and train himself further for the next expedition. His mind wandered back to the injured flying creature he had helped, and he thought about how he could use this newfound knowledge to protect and assist other beings in future encounters. As the night deepened, Noah felt a calm resolve envelop him, a sense that he was not merely preparing for survival but also embracing the responsibility of being a guide, a protector, and an explorer in a world that was both beautiful and perilous. He realized that every note, every sketch, and every plan he had made was a step toward mastering the art of survival while maintaining respect and harmony with the environment. Exhausted but fulfilled, he finally leaned back, looking at the intricate designs and notes before him, knowing that he was ready for the next chapter of his life, a chapter that would take him beyond the safety of his home and back into the wild unknown where the lessons he had learned would be tested again. Noah's mind swirled with anticipation, imagination, and strategy, and as he prepared for rest, he felt an inner conviction: the journey was far from over, and the wilderness still held countless secrets waiting to be discovered. Noah woke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose, his body still aching from the previous injuries but his mind sharper than ever. The sunlight poured through the large window of his room, casting warm patterns across the scattered journals, maps, and sketches that chronicled his previous expedition into the untamed jungle. Today, he decided, would be a day of reflection and strategy, a day where he would solidify every lesson learned and begin planning a concrete approach for his next adventure. He poured himself a cup of tea, the steam rising gently, and sat back down at his desk, running his fingers over the worn leather cover of his main journal. Each page held memories of peril, survival, and unexpected alliances with creatures he had never imagined existed. As he flipped through the pages, the detailed illustrations of thick jungle canopies, rushing rivers, and the mysterious animals he had encountered seemed to leap off the paper, filling the room with a vivid sense of the wild. Noah paused on a page depicting the moment a strange, injured flying creature had trusted him enough to allow him to help mend its broken wing, feeling a deep connection to the raw, untamed world he had briefly become a part of. The thought of returning there, to face the unknown once more, sent a shiver of anticipation down his spine, and he began to organize his notes, dividing them into categories: survival tactics, food and water sources, navigation techniques, and tools for signaling rescue teams. He sketched out new ideas for lightweight, portable equipment, imagining how they could be used to signal aircraft overhead or create temporary shelters that blended seamlessly with the jungle environment. Noah meticulously wrote down potential scenarios: a sudden storm forcing him to find immediate shelter, a large predator crossing his path, or navigating through thick fog and treacherous terrain. Each scenario was accompanied by practical solutions, drawn from both careful research. He considered how to move silently through dense undergrowth, how to purify water with limited resources, and how to identify safe plants and edible creatures. As he worked, he occasionally glanced out the window, imagining himself back in the jungle, feeling the humidity on his skin, hearing the rustle of leaves and distant calls of unknown animals. Each sketch on his pages became more detailed, showing not only the creatures he had encountered but also potential new ones he might discover, his mind blending reality with imagination. He sketched diagrams for makeshift tools, lightweight spears, fishing devices, and signaling mirrors, noting the materials required and their effectiveness. His focus was unbroken, and he even began to simulate survival exercises in his mind, pacing the room, imagining the sound of a snapping branch or the movement of a predator nearby. In between planning and sketching, Noah recorded observations of his own mental and physical state, noting how fear, fatigue, and uncertainty had affected his previous decisions and how he could improve his resilience. He reflected on the emotional weight of isolation and the bond he had formed with the unusual creatures that had assisted him, realizing that survival was as much about understanding and respecting life around him as it was about his own ingenuity. By afternoon, his desk was covered in an array of sketches, notes, and improvised maps showing rivers, cliffs, and dense foliage, each marked with potential hazards and hidden opportunities. Noah took a break, stepping outside to breathe in the crisp air, letting the sun warm his face as he visualized himself trekking through the thick jungle once more. He thought about how he would coordinate with friends and allies if he returned, imagining shared strategies and the pooling of knowledge to maximize their survival chances. As he returned inside, he began a new section in his journal titled Contingency Plans, detailing step-by-step instructions for different emergencies, from injuries to sudden encounters with aggressive wildlife, from unexpected weather changes to temporary loss of direction. He used color coding to prioritize critical actions, ensuring that even in moments of panic, he could rely on a structured approach to stay alive. Hours passed as Noah continued to refine his plans, sketching alternative routes through hypothetical jungle sections, marking water sources, potential shelters, and safe zones for resting at night. Each diagram was accompanied by vivid descriptions of the environment, the sounds, and the potential movements of animals, creating a highly detailed mental map of survival. He imagined how he would set traps for small game, how he would start fires with limited materials, and how he could use natural terrain to hide from predators. With each passing hour, his confidence grew, the fear and uncertainty from his last expedition slowly transforming into preparedness and resolve. Finally, as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Noah leaned back in his chair, surveying the incredible amount of work he had accomplished. His journal now contained not only memories of survival but also a complete set of strategies, sketches, and practical solutions for facing the wild once again. He felt a sense of calm satisfaction, knowing that he had harnessed his experiences into something actionable, something that could guide him safely through any future journey. Noah realized that he was not just planning another expedition, he was becoming a master of adaptation, a student of the wild, and a protector of the delicate balance between man and nature. As darkness fell, he closed his journal, the pages illuminated by the soft glow of a desk lamp, and allowed himself a moment to imagine the jungle in all its complexity, the vibrant greens of the canopy, the shimmer of the river under moonlight, and the silent, watchful eyes of creatures unknown. With a deep breath, he resolved that when the time came, he would return, better prepared, wiser, and stronger than before, ready to face the unknown and continue his journey of survival, exploration, and discovery, carrying with him the lessons, memories, and strategies that would ensure not only his life but also his understanding of the extraordinary world that awaited him beyond the confines of his home. Noah spent the early morning meticulously reviewing all his notes and sketches, the sunlight filtering through his window casting a golden hue across his scattered journals and maps. His body ached slightly from the previous days of reflection and research, yet his mind buzzed with plans and possibilities. He carefully arranged sketches of jungle terrains, rivers, and potential shelters, connecting the dots with colored pencils to outline possible survival routes. He envisioned himself back in the Amazon, navigating treacherous riverbanks and dense foliage, each tree and stone familiar yet fraught with danger. The memory of the previous crash, the turbulent flight, and the struggle for survival replayed vividly in his mind, reminding him of the life lessons learned through pain and perseverance. Noah decided it was time to share his discoveries and strategies with others, realizing that survival in the wild was not just a test of strength but of knowledge, creativity, and cooperation. He drafted a plan to reach out to friends and allies who could join him on the next expedition, carefully listing their skills and assigning roles, some for gathering resources, some for constructing shelters, and others for scouting and monitoring wildlife. By late afternoon, he had organized everything into detailed charts, diagrams, and step-by-step guides, imagining how each action would unfold in the dense jungle environment. He envisioned setting up camp near a river, using the water not only for drinking but also as a natural barrier against predators, while constructing traps and tools for hunting and protection. Noah's thoughts wandered to the creatures he had encountered before, the majestic flying beasts, the mysterious predators hiding in the shadows, and the smaller, clever animals whose movements often dictated his survival strategies. He sketched new concepts for signals and markers, including reflective mirrors, colored fabrics, and fire patterns that could catch the attention of passing aircraft or alert other team members to his location. He also planned for emergencies, improvised medical kits, hidden food caches, and routes for escape or detours, drawing each one with precise measurements and annotations. As evening approached, he reviewed the list of supplies he had recovered from the previous crash site and prioritized the items he would carry on the expedition: water purification tools, survival knives, ropes, lightweight tents, and medical essentials. He imagined how the team would travel together, helping each other across rivers, clearing dense undergrowth, and cautiously observing wildlife from a safe distance. Each sketch and note seemed to breathe life into his vision, the room filled with the energy of his imagination and determination. By nightfall, Noah felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in months, knowing that this next adventure was not just about survival but about applying everything he had learned and discovering the unknown with a prepared mind and courageous heart. He glanced at the stars through the window, imagining the vast jungle stretched below, and whispered to himself that the journey ahead would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of resilience, yet he was ready. Exhausted but inspired, he closed his journals and sat quietly, planning the first steps, imagining the first signals, and preparing for the moment he would gather his friends, set out into the dense wild, and face the challenges with strategy, unity, and unwavering determination, knowing that the jungle awaited with its secrets, dangers, and wonders, and he would meet them all head-on.